It is my great pleasure to introduce Toni James to you. Toni works at SafeStack and helps organize Chickon and probably like about 1,000 other things. Today she's going to be talking about growing your own security champion. Can't believe you made me say that. So please join me in welcoming Toni.
Just before I start, if you've been sitting in this room for 2 hours, can you please stand up? Everybody stand up, please. Arms up. All right, everyone's awake. You're here for my talk. Woohoo, let's go. All right. Kia ora tato, kokoro ai te manga, koko ai te awa, tatara, aho, ko James toko whānau, ko Toni toko ingoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā tato katoa. Kia ora. Kia ora. Yes. And a big round of applause for our sponsors. Thank you, everybody. Doesn't happen without you. All right, hello. My name is Toni. For those of you who don't know me, you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm a snowboarder turned security specialist at SafeStack, and I'm an owner of our Secure Dev Academy. I'm also one of the organizers for Christchurch Hacker Conference. So come see me after this talk or message me at any point if you want to know about security training or the conference or anything. I might have a sticker for you. I'm super excited to be here and talk to you about growing your own security champions because it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I'm old enough to remember chia pets, so I don't reference them at all in this talk, but it was my title. So how many people started gardening in lockdown? Yeah, a few of us. Or baking bread, or brewing beer, or we had some things, we had some time on our hands. And if we didn't have time on our hands, we had, in the security profession, we had so much work on that we needed something to take our mind off our work. And so I had, all of a sudden developed this passion for gardening. And part of that passion is because of, we have this grocery store here for anyone outside of New Zealand that's watching. We have this grocery store that gave us these little gardens. And if you can't see it, it's a tiny little compostable pot, and it comes in a little package with directions on how to grow it. And I think this one's broccoli. And it comes with a little disc of soil. You add water and it expands, and it's a really cool science project, and a little seed packet. And you plant it, and then the compostable container just, composts, and all of a sudden you have a plant that grows. But I'm horrible at growing plants. I'm absolutely dreadful. In fact, my best friend, through university, my best friend would, every year on my birthday, she would give me a cactus, because she knew the cactus from the year before was dead. So I would throw out that cactus and get another one. But I wanted to be a better gardener, and this is the best time to do it. I've got plenty of time at home. If anything, I was just procrastinate on all the work I was supposed to do. So as I was going through this, I was like, wow, this is actually relatable to security, and you'll see why later. Because first, I'm going to give you some tips on gardening. So you have to want to do it. Like with anything that you're passionate about, you have to want to do it. It's just not going to happen. You'll never get there, plain and simple. It doesn't have to be top priority on your list, but it has to be somewhere on your list. So do you want to be a better gardener? Want to be a better gardener? Yes, I do. So what makes a good garden? I have lots of memes, so just to make up for the last talk. So probably not your cat. That was probably a disaster. And luckily I have dogs, which still can be a disaster. But healthy plants have these wellness indicators, right? We know they're healthy because they have bright colored petals or leaves, beautiful green leaves, and a strong stem, and they're standing upright. So we see, hey, sweet, that's a healthy plant. And then when it all goes bad, when you forget to water your plants, your plant starts to droop and die and look really sad and wilted. So tip number 2 is find out what the wellness indicators are of your plants. Learn what healthy looks like and what thirst and hunger and sickness look like before it all goes bad. Or else you're gonna be this person, which was me for quite a long time in my life, where I'd be like, hey, beautiful plants, let's go home to my house to die. Sorry, hence my cactus story. But yeah, there are a few plants that are super resilient. So, if you have a home office or if you want to spruce up your desk at your office, I highly recommend peace lilies. So peace lilies are these plants that have this beautiful white flower on them sometimes, and they are very, very, very hard to kill. And they have these wellness indicators where they'll just droop when they're really sad and need water, and you put water in, they're like, hello, I'm back. But don't get a cactus, because they actually have a really tiny window for going super happy and healthy to dead, so don't do that. But plants have basic needs. There's an entire realm of botany and biochemistry that goes into plant growth, but we're gonna keep it simple. I got this off a primary school slide on how to grow a plant, so these are where my graphics come from. But they need soil, water, air, and light to grow. Now, for soil, they don't just need any soil, right? Do you want to grow roses or do you want to grow dandelions? You need the optimal soil to grow your garden. But of course, if you only have concrete to work with, you're only going to get weeds. So the type of soil you have dictates what kind of garden you can grow, and it's important to have the best soil you can. Luckily, you have the power over soil, because you can just buy it. You can go to the shop, or in lockdown level 3, you could order it online. But lots of people at the garden centers were extremely busy when everyone's like, we're gonna lock down, and all of a sudden everyone's like, I need hobbies, help. So with gardening, if you have outdoor space, that's fantastic, but a lot of us don't. We live in the cities, we live inside, so we just have all these potted plants all over the place. And just like my cactus story, I find water to be the absolute hardest part about planting. With soil, you just, great, buy the mix that you need for the plant, that's fine. But even when they come, plants come with directions that are like, water it daily. I'm like, well, how much? I'm a programmer, give me details. There's too many variables here. So you have to Google it, you have to research it, you have to understand the plant that you have so that you know how much water you need to get into your plant. And of course, there's a few tips and tricks which I highly recommend. You might have a few extra wine bottles or beer bottles hanging around. The wet string into the plant helps, kind of keep water growing and trickling in at a good time if you've got the space for that. It's fantastic. And one absolutely, amazing thing about plants, especially when you have them all over your house, is, they feed off all the bad things like carbon dioxide and toxins, and they produce oxygen, and, something we desperately need to survive. So growing plants isn't all about sacrificing your time and effort. It comes with this huge reward. And if you're growing your garden, it produces food that you can eat, and it's organic if you want it to be. So just because you can't see what you're getting, it doesn't mean there are no rewards. We often forget why we have, all these plants around us. But yeah, they're a benefit to you. And here's a bunch of plants that I highly recommend because they're hardy and they purify the air around you. And in fact, a good story about the peace lily is that in Christchurch, some of my friends growing up in Christchurch used to get peace lilies sent home with them. Because it was wet and dark and cold in the wintertime, and there was so much smoke from all the chimneys that every home would have a peace lily in it to help clean the air. And finally, let's talk about lights. Let there be lights. Obviously, the plants need energy from the sun. It's called photosynthesis. I'm not going to describe photosynthesis for you. You can Google it or look it up if you want some more details. But if a plant doesn't get enough light from the sun, then the photosynthetic process slows down, and even if it has sufficient water and carbon dioxide, and increasing the light intensity will boost the speed of photosynthesis and therefore the growth of your plant. So the amount of light you have is extremely important. So shine as much light on your plants as they can handle, and not all plants need a lot of light, like my peace lily that just sits happy in the corner, but every plant needs it. And be sure to provide as much sunshine as possible. There are a few additional factors that help plants grow. There's plenty of studies about it. And when you're passionate about things, you tend to go the extra mile. So you tend to spend more time with them. You tend to talk to your plants or give them a bit more love and attention or play music for them. That's nice. So studies have shown that classical music actually has seeds sprout faster and a faster time to flower for flowers, increases the number of leaves on plants and the number of flowers. The friends, so companion planting, pest and disease control, increased soil nutrition, and it attracts the bees. So everyone loves the bees, please. Shelter, of course, if you have a garden shed and you can do that. Like, I know growing plants on the South Island of New Zealand is a bit tricky, mostly because we get frost all the time, or wind, or hail. So it's not the best place. But then if you do have a garden shed, sometimes the hail's not such a good idea. And we all need love, right? Plants need attention, some far more than most, and the healthiest ones are the ones that are well cared for. So that just concludes my quick story about growing a garden and growing plants. And here's a little graphic that I found, which is great if you have a home office or a co-working space. Fill it with plants and make everybody happy. But as I was going through this whole planting process, I was like, humans are a lot like plants, right? We just have more complicated emotions. And I doubt anyone's been taking notes up to this point, but here's where we talk about security champions. So if you want to take away a few things, and my slides will be online and all that stuff, that's fine, but I might have a little writing activity in a little bit. Spoiler alert, I do not have all the answers for you. I will have far more questions than answers, but I'm here to point you in the right direction. So here goes. So let's revisit tip number 1. You have to want it. Everyone talks about, yeah, it'd be great to have a security champion program, or I'd love to be a security champion. But until you actually sit down and make it a priority and put it on the list, it's not going to happen. So it needs to be in your budget. You need to know that this is something that you're passionate about. It needs to be visible and prioritized. And if you have the budget and the time for it, you need to let people know what that budget and time is. Don't force people to do it. It's really discouraging to be a junior in tech and have more things piled on top of, like, hey, you should go on to the, security champion meeting. But find out who wants it. And also start encouraging people to participate and do some fun ad hoc activities. There's lots of things out there that you can do. Either, throw out some pizza and have a nice learn and lunch and get some people kind of hooked on it, because the more they're hooked on it, the more they're going to want to do it. So where do we start? Obviously, training is a big deal. And, whether you're starting with a seedling or transplanting a tree, it's time to, if you're doing this for yourself, it's time to focus on yourself. If you're doing this for your team, it's time to focus on your team. Set aside some time to do this. Find out what those wellness indicators are. Just like plants, we all have wellness indicators. Everyone's different here, and it's not going to be the same for every person. But there are some common indicators. So if you were to look at yourself, if you were to look at your team, what are the top 3 wellness indicators? What's your teammates' top 3 wellness indicators? Get to know what the signs are. I knew from mine, my 3 are: I stop talking. Shocking, I know. I go really quiet when I start to get, start feeling down on myself. I get really sarcastic, so I have pretty dark humor. And so I get a bit snarky, and I'm very quick to anger. So my family knows this, and we have little breathing exercises that we do to get out of that funk. But I know what my wellness indicators are, and I've explained that to my team so that they know what that wellness indicator is. So when I go silent, that's when I start getting the little pings being like, are you okay? What's going on? How you doing? So know what they are, pay attention. Learn what healthy looks like, both for yourself and for your team. Can you tell if your teammate is having a good or a bad day? And if you're like the manager, can you tell when one of your colleagues is burnt out or feels a bit useless that day? And ask others. Like, I know what my wellness indicators are, but I also ask other people, what do you see in me? How do you know that I'm happy or sad or this or that? And yeah, so just like plants, security champions, need soil, water, air, and light. And for soil, I call this the environment, right? The environment that you're in. Do you want a garden full of beautiful manicure, sweet-smelling roses, or do you want a sparse collection of weeds? What kind of garden are you trying to grow? What type of team or environment are you trying to create? And it's hard, right? Like, the type of soil you have dictates what kind of security champions you can grow, and it's up to you to make the best soil that you can. What are the things that you can change in your environment around you? I started my work from home life in the living room of my house, which was great until lockdown, and then everyone was in the living room of my house, and it was chaotic, and it was like, I would put my headphones on, and my husband would vacuum, and I'd be in a meeting, and it wasn't working. So I went to my back office because I had one, but it was cold and it was dark. So I moved in plants, and I got a better chair, and I changed the lights, and changed the environment. And I also had the support from my company to do those things. So it's not always the best environment. We know that's tough, that's hard, it's on a budget, but can you make it the best environment? What can you do to improve it? And I literally feel like this all the time. We all have those unique work from home situations. And personally, are you empowering yourself to work when you should work and giving yourself time to learn without being guilty because you feel like you should be working? Do you have a shut-off mode? What's your relax and enjoyment time? Write things down. They're not concrete until you actually write them down. Now, just like watering plants, I find content the absolute hardest thing about learning application security and growing security champions. Like, you can do all you can to provide this excellent environment, but how do you know where to start? What level do you start at? Whether you're starting with your team or whether you're starting with yourself, what's the best learning styles? Do you know your own personal learning style? And do you know your team's learning style? And do you learn better in groups or on your own? These are all things that you can kind of build profiles for yourself and for your employees. So, the amount of content you need depends on your person. And so really, there's no way around it. You need to research your person, yourself. You need to understand them. Because only then will you find, the best way to deliver training or learning concepts. And you're never going to know if it's too little or too much until it's too late. So thankfully, we have a bunch of tricks and tools, right? Like, we have books and podcasts and CTFs, and I have links to these all on my slides. But we have a lot of options, and it's just making sure that people are aware of them and sharing them and making sure it's okay for them to use them. As an individual will evolve, they'll crave new things and want to try out new things. And as organizations evolve, you need to consistently spice it up. So find out what works. And AIR is the insubstantials, right? So one absolutely amazing thing about training people is that they give back, right? People, we need to learn. Mahatma Gandhi wrote, live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. So growing people isn't all about, sacrificing your time and effort in your person. It comes back with this tremendous reward. And just because you can't see what you're getting, it doesn't mean there are no rewards, okay? Security champions are a very unique breed of individuals. They tend to have enough technical knowledge to know that they don't know everything, and enough curiosity not only to wonder how things work, but also how things break. And they want to use all of that knowledge and power to improve themselves and those around them. These are the insubstantial things, but extremely valuable to yourself and your organization. And the benefits are huge. Again, they're really difficult to measure, but personally you have increased job satisfaction and competitive skills and security as a mindset, and for companies you're attracting the top talent because you provide training, improved retention rates, internal promotions, and hopefully more secure applications because people are thinking about security. And finally, the last basic need we need to talk about is light. And this is what I think of as recognition. If a plant doesn't get enough light from the sun, its growth will slow down and it will eventually wilt away. The same with a person that doesn't get enough recognition from themselves or others. I'm going to read this because I know it's a big slash of text on the slide. But when a manager recognizes an employee's behavior personally and sincerely, both feel proud, gratified, and happy. There's a huge connection that transcends the immediate culture to create a shared bond. The power of this bond is stronger than you think. Indeed, it's the power that holds together great organizational cultures. And shine as much light on your people as they can handle. Not all people like a lot of lights, but they all need it. This is for myself is what I call head pats. I need a lot of head pats. I need a lot of head pats. You're doing a good job. Just checking in, you're doing a good job to keep my progress and growth and momentum going. And not everyone needs a lot of recognition, but learn who needs what. As a team or a lead manager, you need to know what those positive reinforcements are. And for those individuals out there like me that suffer from imposter syndrome occasionally, you need to acknowledge your accomplishments out loud. Write them down. Tell people about them. Tell others your story so you can share. And most of all, you need to own it. You need to own your own accomplishments. Now, this is where I talked about, a little writing exercise. I know you don't have to do it here, but think about it later on. What I like to do is get a couple people together, have a little chat. This is what I do. This is what I did. Or if it's people that you know in your team, and get 2 pieces of paper. And on one piece of paper, write, I am remarkable because. And on the other piece of paper, write, you are remarkable because. And take 2 minutes for each one and sit there and for the I am remarkables, write down all of your own accomplishments, all the things you feel that you have done. And then you are remarkable as your partner. Write down all of their accomplishments. They're not going to be the same. People see in you amazing things that you don't see in yourself until they tell you. So this is just a bit of an activity. Then trade papers, and there might be tears, there might be blank pages, that's okay. It's a process that you continually use to get people to own their own accomplishments and feel remarkable. And there will most certainly be recognition and encouragement. It'll give you these tools that conquer the imposter syndrome every time it comes around. Because if you have it, it doesn't go away. And yes, there are some additional factors that help security champions grow. They're not absolutely crucial, but when you're passionate about things, you go that extra mile. You're providing music and friends and shelter and love, and it's possible to be healthy without these things, but the benefits are difficult to measure. But many studies show improved learning and growth when all of these things are added. So, with that, I'm going to leave you with some final tips on growing your own security champion. You have to want it, know what the wellness indicators are, make the best environment that you can for yourself and for your team, get to know yourself and your employee. Not all of these rewards are going to be obvious or tangible. Shine as much light as you can on yourself and on your employees. And most of all, don't get discouraged. If it doesn't work, try something different and keep going again to grow your own security champion. And with that, thank you very much to all of you, and AppSec Day.
Thank you very much, Toni. That was a really cool talk. I like the comparison to gardening and also the shout out for the amazing dirt that's in those things. That grows to 10 times its size. Now, while you in the audience think of questions, I've got one from online. If you would mind just staying quiet a little bit, thanks. So the question online is, would the variety of material sources be more confusing than helping? So the examples are like CTF videos, slides, blogs. How far and varying the resources should we go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think part of it is obviously getting to know your team. You know, depending on the experience that they have, what would they find interesting and what would they like to try first? And if they don't know what to try first, like Security Champions is not a new concept. It's been around for 10 plus years. And all it really is to encourage people to know a little bit more about security and start kind of get hooked on the bug of, you know, knowing security. So there is a variety of things, and that's definitely a challenge because you're like, where do I start? But narrowing it down and simply starting by having a talk and being like, what would be fun? Should we, you know, get pizza and have lunch and talk about things? If you have a group that is, you know, really into dev, then maybe CTFs are new, you know, starting out with CTF time and things like that are a fun thing to start with. But again, you have to research your own team and yourself and find out what you like. For me, it was definitely CTFs. So CTF online definitely got me hooked on security.
Awesome. Now, is there any questions for Toni from the audience? I can relay them.
If you have any questions, I will, now that my talk is done, I'm totally cool. Please come see me, come chat about things. Happy to talk to anyone, and hopefully tomorrow we'll be having a bit of a meetup for any women who would like to talk to me about what it's like working in security.
Oh, cool. Where will people find out about that?
I will tweet about it.
Okay, awesome. That's great to hear that's happening. Now, we're running a little ahead of schedule, so we're going good. Before Toni packs up, let's give her one more round of applause.